And just so we can kind of see the flow of the meeting, and then the minutes. Or you could scroll down. Okay. All right, and then if we could put up the minutes, please.
Yes.
Louis, can you email me the attendance link? The chat won't let me in.
Just go. It's on the DLT website. It's on the.
I am there. I don't see it.
It's right underneath where you join the meeting. It says shared documents, attendance link. It's all there.
Really?
Yep.
Charlene, listen, Louis forces us to use technology.
I don't force you to use technology. First of all, it would take me longer to look for her email address.
He forces me to use the chat. He does everything.
Let me know if you can't find it.
That's around here somewhere. Let me look again.
When you expand to join the meeting, there's 3 bullets. It's right there underneath.
Don't pick on my friend Louis. He's the best.
Hey, I'm not picking on him this week.
No, I am.
Like how I said, this week.
It's me, Charlie, not him.
I also can't see anything when I'm sharing my screen.
Thank you, Charlene, for reminding me to sign in, and I'll remind everyone else.
Well, yeah, I didn't even put it in the chat yet. I'll put it in the chat when I'm finished sharing.
Oh, and another thing, while we're on it,
Yeah.
we've been doing it wrong forever. We don't have to motion on the minutes or anything. We're consensus. Just so you know, we've been doing it wrong forever.
Oh, so why are you changing it right now? I was so excited to make a motion.
Sorry.
Oh, you're right. So,
It
yes,
is what it is.
just so everyone who is new to the meeting knows that Charlene is a Robert's Rules gift.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She knows every aspect of Robert's Rules.
We've been doing it like over 20 years. It's
Yeah.
disgusting, actually. But
Wow, it's actually good because
Charlene should have an official position with the district as the Roberts Rules, you know, I don't know, what could we name her?
if it's a position, I don't care what the name is. If it's not paid, well then,
Well, you know how that goes, Charlene.
hey, listen.
Charlene,
I
you've
gotta
been volunteering for so many years.
I know.
You're an honorary paid employee, kind of like me. We're unpaid.
Pro volunteers.
That's right.
Yep. I am a professional volunteer. You are
Mhm.
who still can't find the attendance link, but okay. I don't know what my problem is today, but I can't.
Did you drink your coffee yet?
I need
Okay.
another cup.
All right. So Charlene, I will say. So what do we say? Are we all in consensus on the
Yeah.
the
Does
minutes?
everyone agree? Yeah. Does everyone
Everyone
agree?
agree-
on the minute?
Is there any disagreements to the minutes?
Here's another way of doing it.
Okay, then the minutes are officially passed. So, just a couple of brief announcements before I do my very brief presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Gus and high schools. Dr. D'Antona is in one of our math PDs right now, so he will be presenting the current mid-year benchmarks of the district last. This presentation will also be done at the CEC meeting, which is later this month. Joe, when is it? Oh, you're muted. You're still muted. Did he get? You're still muted. There you go. Now you're muted again. You keep clicking.
Am I unmuted?
There you go. There you go.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that. It's scheduled for Wednesday, March 24th.
Okay, perfect. So Wednesday, March 24th is the CEC meeting. We'll be doing this presentation for the community during that time. So if the DLT has any questions during Dr. D'Antona's presentation, please make us aware so we can get that information out there. I know Mary Danielle Junta just sent me an email. So the high school return date is March 22nd, correct?
March 22nd, it'll be open for staff March 18th and 19th to get ready.
So for those of you ready for high schools, this is very exciting.
That date's confirmed, the 22nd? Because I was like rumblings about it. That's a confirmed date?
No, she just announced it.
There was a citywide principals meeting just now.
I just got off the meeting.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Gotcha.
sorry.
Okay.
That means everyone has to come back?
No.
Any family that chose blended learning.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, because she was about to have a problem as a new chancellor. Okay, I'm good now.
And then, right, but then remember that you can always go remote at any time. So the difference is you cannot go from remote to blended. So if you're remote, you remain remote. And if you are uncomfortable with having your child go back to school, you can go, and you are listed as being blended and you don't want 5 days, you can actually still apply to go remote.
Thanks. Tonight's meeting is going to be funny, but okay.
Charlene, do you see the sign-in page for the DLT?
I found it.
Okay, I have it on the screen as well, just so you see it.
Oh, thank you. Lewis is the best.
Mhm.
So also, Brooke, have you and how did I just lose her name in my head? Decide who's going to be the official person on the DLT?
We weren't able to meet officially yet. She had an issue come up at our last meeting.
Okay.
I think it might be Taylor. I think she might
Okay.
want it.
So when you guys speak, if possible, just really speak about who has the consistency of time. Because it is representation and constituencies, and we talk about things and make decisions about the district. So if the time is an issue, just let us know. And, so you can always, see, the issue is the same for SLT, where any person can select a designee, but or even a fill-in, like a temporary fill-in. But if you were just filling in and Taylor's the official person, like any kind of consensus making, you can't be part of. And that's why we say, if there's an issue, it's always better to select your designee, so your designee can actually be part of the consensus making of the team. It's always one to just be there and get that information, but the actual team decision making, there has to be like a standard person. So if it is Taylor and she's not here, then then you are there to collect information, but not necessarily be part of an agreement of anything that we're coming to consensus on. So if you could have that conversation together and then make that final decision around who that person will be, just in terms of time for actually the remaining 3 meetings.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Okay. All right. So in moving along with the agenda, Louis, can you put up the questionnaire that I included in the email to everyone? So during our last meeting, we went over the survey that we sent to all of our SLTs, and we had the conversation around SLT health, right? And so we came up with some really interesting questions or just wonderings as we unpacked that document. So I captured that and put that together in a document, which, if you guys agree, we are going to ask our SLTs to side by side look at the survey as well as these questions and engage in an activity amongst themselves. It's not going to be checked upon or reviewed by us or anything like that, but really just engage in conversations about particular topics. So this is just an introduction, and everybody that's on the team has a copy of it. It explains what we did, and that we asked for them to go over that. So this is exactly what we talked about last month, about reviewing the demographics of your school community. Is this an area for your SLT to address in terms of equitable voice in decision-making across your community? Has your community been made aware of the role and work of the SLT? Do you utilize translations when notifying the community? And then, what is the culture of goal development in your school? That often comes up year over year, around how goals are created. Do you do what our culture is in DLT, where Dr. Mike and I kind of craft the goals and present them to you? Or do you write them together from, its inception of we actually craft the goals as part of a meeting? Discuss the process the SLT engages in to examine and evaluate academic programs. I don't think we do that enough, right? So let's talk about, with our SLTs, the fact that our goals and our action plans should lead to academic programs and decisions that are made at the school level. How often do we look at curriculum, instruction, educational issues, prioritize as goals and action plans in the CEP? So any kind of concerns that we have about student progress, is that really, at the forefront of the work that we're talking about as a DLT? How often do you review the budget and alignment of budget to spending of educational resources? This is the budget is something that comes up all the time in SLTs, and we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and truly have an understanding of the fact that the principal manages the budget. The principal is the person to do that. The principal takes the CEP, looks at how those allocations apply to their goals and objectives that are created by the SLT, and implements that with the budget director. Also about ensuring areas of the CEP are addressed at every meeting. We talk about this at our training. CEP should be talked at every single meeting. What are your systems from benchmarking? What needs to for benchmarking? How is budget alignment part of this process? And how do you make amendments to your CEPs? So today, you're going to listen to Dr. D'Antona and I actually talk about what our current data looks like and how we're pivoting, and not necessarily changing goals, but we're going to make a few amendments to get that big push, because we saw some learning lags in our data that we want to see get better by the end of the year. And we have an opportunity to do that and what that's going to look like. What are your systems of gathering input from your school community? We want to remind our SLTs that the people that sit on our SLTs represent the community and the constituencies that they were elected to do that. So how are we getting information? We should not be just randomly creating things in our heads and saying like, oh, we want to talk about this. It should be, at what point do we get some sort of information based on our CEP from our constituencies, from the UFT, from CSA, from parents, from DC 37, from all of those people. So how are we doing that? And what are your systems of gathering? Oh, I said that. What are your systems of gathering input? All right, go down, Lewis. And then, has your SLT received training in state and federal requirements that impact your school and the development of your CEP? If not, that's something that you can speak to the DLT about. Gus is always happy to support our schools in this area. Is ESSA data shared and explained to SLTs? The one thing that I think is really important that our SLTs don't understand is our ESSA data is really what drives this work. Remember, your CEP is a state document. So if the state is saying that you are weak in certain areas, a level 1 and sometimes a level 2 in certain areas, the expectation is that that is addressed. So I think this is a good starting point. Once again, I'm going to encourage all of you who have and are part of, every single DLT member is assigned a partnership school where you are the support for that particular school for the DLT. And I do encourage you to kind of call and check in on the schools that you support and see if they went through that, to try to get some feedback, say, what did you think about it? Remember, we are partners and supports. We do not run their SLTs. We just let them know that we are here to guide them, to answer any questions that they have not received through part of the training. But I always think it's important for our SLTs to know that the DLT is here to support them if necessary. So if there are no objections to that activity that we will ask our SLTs to engage in, after the meeting today, we will send this out to the principal and the chair people of the SLTs with the recommendation that they engage in this activity before the end of the year. So any feedback or concerns from the DLT?
Danielle, sorry to interrupt you. You have to, since I'm no longer a member, you have to reassign my schools, because I'm glad to help, but I was contacted by 129 the other day. So you need to reassign my schools. I mean, I'm glad to help, don't get me wrong, but just to be official.
Okay, so that we will redo that and send it out to DLT. So 129 would now be assigned to Rushmi. So I will have Janet redo those and send them out so we have updated forms. Okay, so we got.
Yeah, just to be 129 had a question again about the PAC chairperson on SLT. So I addressed that. So that was their issue. But I'm just saying that, yeah, that's the case with them. They're good now. I spoke to Laura and Marilyn, so everything's good over there.
Okay, thanks. And then, just in general, any PAC questions would go to Brooke and Taylor. So we don't always have to answer certain questions. We can assign them to other DLT members. As I say, we're all in a learning stage of PAC. So that's good. Thank you, Christine. But we will update, we'll take your schools and which were the President's Council schools, and just flip-flop Rushmi into them.
So Danielle, I'm glad. So which schools are there? So it's 129, and what other schools?
I don't have the form in front of me, so we'll send it by the end of the day today. It's probably 129, 379, and 29, but I'll double check.
It wasn't 379 because I couldn't have my school. So I think Joe had 379. I think it was 185, 21. I don't remember.
All right, well,
I remember if it, because they all, I used to get contacted, so it didn't, it wasn't clear, I mean, not clear. It wasn't like, definitive.
I think I have to actually look at the form. We may need to redo it all because I don't think we had there was dual roles on the team. And so Brooke and Taylor are also going to be assigned schools. So I have to look at it and make some reassignments and connections, and then we'll resend it out to you. So that's something Janet and I will go over following this meeting. Okay. Janet, can you do me a favor and just locate that and send it to me so I have it on top of my email so I'm not digging through it, and this way we can get to it right away.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But so besides that, is there any objections to sending this activity to our SLTs? All right, and then Janine, are you on here, Werner? Okay. And
she
so
won't be attending today.
She's what?
She won't be attending today.
Okay. So
I believe. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened.
right.
I'll be representing and giving the information for the district.
Okay, great. So Bill, you got my email around like a formalized. Yeah,
I did. I don't think it's going to change. I think it's just for today.
okay.
And I know that Elaine had, positioned myself and Mr. Rucker to sit on a variety of the DLTs just as supports.
All right, perfect. So do you think, Bill, you could also send an email to your high school principals and chair people of the SLTs? We'll send it to you and Mr. Rucker, and if you could forward it, because Janine usually does that, or Janine can do it, but just forward the activity to the high schools to ask them to engage in the process of checking their SLT health. And then, in the email, if you'll just let them know that this is done by the district leadership team, to let them know that we're a support for them also, that if they have any questions, they can reach out to their representative. And when we make the changes to the DLT support person, I'll send that to you too, and you can include that all together so the high schools can see who's their support.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not a problem.
All right. Any other questions, concerns regarding that? Okay, so Bill, would you like to do your presentation next?
That's fine.
Okay, so I do want to thank you and Mr. Rucker for being here, because we did talk about Flushing High School, and we also, there was supposed to be a visit during the last meeting with, I think, you and Gus. Correct?
Yes.
And that you were going to update us on that and kind of talk about next steps for Flushing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if you wanted to do, I don't know if you were presenting anything else from the superintendent's report, but you can do all of that now if you choose.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
So first, let me just kind of review the updates for District 25 high schools. I want to congratulate Townsend Harris School Community. They have an AP research student that had their work published in the Journal of Student Research. Queens North High School hosted an MBK MSK kickoff on 2/26 and a session for new and emerging advisors on 3/4. There are subsequent sessions from now to April 30th for advisors for MBK and MSK students. Queens North High School district team members will be working collaboratively to create a platform to support student voice across the district. Details on this new initiative are forthcoming. Superintendent Lindsay will be hosting her second parent office hours on April 8th. Details are forthcoming. Principal Mindfulness Wellness Series started on February 9th. To provide principals with strategies and tools to handle stress. So this is part of the initiative for social emotional health and wellness. The high schools are also preparing, as everyone knows, for the reopening and principals have been surveyed on their capacity to have 5 days of in-person instruction. And lastly, teacher and principal evaluation guidance is being rolled out for the remainder of the school year. And this is basically the new piece. The time period to conduct those evaluations are March 9th to June 11th. Sharif, did you want to add anything? Am I missing anything for the district?
No, I think you captured everything, yeah.
Okay. And as far as Flushing, the meeting went very well. We did have an opportunity to observe 2 classes. The focus is really on the 9th grade because that's part of Superintendent Lindsay's goals. Really the biggest challenge that we're seeing is how to engage students in the remote classroom. I know that several teachers, many teachers across the district have attended the BCO workshops, and we are seeing some of those strategies, but we're still seeing a reluctance of students to turn on their cameras and to engage in thoughtful conversation with one another. So that's really probably one of the largest hurdles that we're seeing. The other piece I would say, and this is really for across the districts, is trying to ramp up the attendance so that we're ensuring that students are not only present in the classrooms, but they're doing that work. I know that several principals are in the process of looking at the NX grades, which is going to be another big piece that the district is looking at, so that the students are having opportunities to find and solve those NX grades so that they can get a finalized grade. Other than that, I would say that as we're progress monitoring the CEPs, the schools are working collaboratively with their team members, and most of the schools seem to be managing and hitting most of their goals. Are there any questions at this point?
Yes, sorry. You said the principals were surveyed on having what in their schools? You went so fast, I couldn't even catch
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry. The survey was their ability to have 5 days of in-person instruction.
I got another question, sorry. I'm writing that down. What was that award the student got for Townsend Harris?
It was an AP research student had published their work in the Journal of Student Research, and that was at Townsend Harris.
Thank you.
Bill, can you just talk about some of the work? Because I know you guys have probably been, working really closely and strategically with schools around District 25 high schools and their ability to reopen 5 days.
So I haven't really been on the forefront of that work. I do know that, a lot of our schools have been hit really hard as far as, the COVID. And really the challenge is trying to make school communities feel safe and making not only the students and the parents, but the teachers feeling safe. So I think as we're having more ramp up with the vaccine, we're going to see that more people feel comfortable going back into that environment, into that school setting. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but.
Okay. We want to thank our high schools for opening up as vaccine centers in the, in the community. I know that I myself got my vaccine at a New York City high school, so Hillcrest High School. So I want to thank you guys for that too, because I do know that that takes a lot of planning and preparation on behalf of the principals too. It doesn't just happen, so thank you for that as well. Okay. Any other high school reports?
Of course, I have another question. Sorry.
Okay,
You said the principal mindfulness series started on 2/9 until when?
That's ongoing.
Oh,
That's on Tuesday. All the way to June.
Oh, all the way to June. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm the annoying high school rep, just so you know.
No problem.
Yeah, we're here to answer the questions, and if you have questions that we don't have answers to, we'll try to find them.
Thank you. And you can come
You're
to
welcome.
our
So
meeting tonight.
Charlene, she's the Queen's
High school
High school
president council,
council.
co-president. So
Yeah.
come to our meeting tonight, 6:30. You want me to send you a link?
Please do.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Rucker, I see you. Did you wanted to add anything for high schools?
No, I think Bill covered it all.
Okay, all
Did a
right.
good job.
Okay, perfect. So Gus, I'm going to turn this over to you for your report, and then I'm also going to call in Dr. D'Antona right now. And you're not muted, Gus, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The other piece of high school news, based on the state, they issued a document recently, and I don't know the details, but apparently the state is saying that the city, and I guess they're still working out the details, has to give the Algebra 1, ELA, Living Environment, and Earth Science regents in June. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, that's what I've seen. That's
Yeah,
what
but they're
the
voting
state
on
sent
that,
out.
right? Yeah, they're voting on that. They haven't decided that though, right?
Right, but that's the state issued guidelines, and I think that they're working it out, with the city. But I just wanted to mention that. I mean, some students are going to be very happy to be able to, get those regents out of the way. So that's being worked out. That's the other piece of high school news.
Wait,
Well,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
I have
wasn't
a
there a date?
question.
I have a question too. Wasn't there a date to vote on that this month or something?
Yes.
I don't know.
It was the 15th.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, it was the 15th.
Okay.
So Gus, you said something very interesting, and I guess Bill, I'll ask you this too, but I don't know if you guys would know the answer. Is that you said get them out of the way? Does that doesn't mean they'll have to take them again, will it?
What I meant by that was that if I was a high school student and I wasn't taking regents and to get my credits and get everything done, I would be concerned about it. So that's all I meant by it. Now, nothing official. Bill, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm still waiting for the guidance really from the state.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, Gus, if you wanted to do your presentation, and then Mike and I, Dr. D'Antona just came in here. So we will, we can kind of co-present if you need us around the DCEP.
Yes, I definitely need you around that. That's the first item on the agenda that I'm looking at. I have a question for Louis. Louis, are you going to be able to share documents for me, or do I have to futz around with the screen and see if I can do it?
I can do it, Gus. Just tell me what the names of your documents are.
Great, Louis to the rescue.
Yeah.
Okay, on the DCP, we're supposed to finalize the document this meeting, and my understanding from Central is that they're going to start posting them in April. So I know that the DCP has been more or less finalized. The superintendents mentioned something about some additional data and looking at some of the aspects of the DCP. So at this point, do you and Mike want to say something on the DCP, or shall I move on to other items?
Well, if you would like, Mike can do it's up to you. He could do the presentation that shows the adjustments.
That's
there we are.
And then, as long as the agenda or the minutes show that the DCP has been finalized, then I'm good. And I know all the DLT members, you have been looking at the DCP on an ongoing basis. And as usual, right when we finish one DCP, the new one will come out. So for the April meeting, I'll have the new template. I did ask whether the new template would be very different, and they told me that it's going to reflect the CEP template. So, there won't be tenets and things like that, but it'll be around areas of concentration like the school CEPs. So, Danielle and Mike, do you want to take over and talk about data?
Yeah, so while Mike is pulling up his benchmarking data, you all received a link from Dr. D'Antona over on Friday that has a link to the DCEP. And it's going to be inclusive of some of the benchmarking data that he's going to go over today. And if we do finalize the DCEP today, then Gus will just transfer it into iPlan, and then it will be pulled out to be posted wherever they're going to post it. I don't know where they're posting it, Gus.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to be told where to put it, and that'll be a citywide issue. The other piece of this is I will be sending you another one of those interesting DocuSign emails. I just asked Central this morning to send me the instructions again for creating DocuSign signatures. So I will be creating emails to all of you for the DCP signature. Now, please remember that when you sign off on the DCP, you're also signing off on the parent engagement policy because that's part of it as well. And in your case, you are the only district that I'm aware of in the city that has done the SLT survey information. So I don't know whether you're changing something in the 100.11 plan based on that information. We're not required to do that because there hasn't been any official, update citywide on the 100.11 plans. But, it's like always, the DCP, like the SLT, the CEP is a living document. So you could, tweak something in the 100.11 plan if you want to.
Yeah, I think first of all, just to let everyone know that we do have the translated versions of the PIP, but we are just waiting on one last piece. We sent it back in to get it translated in Bengali. So we took our highest 4 languages, Chinese, Spanish, Korean, and Bengali. And once we get that back, it's going to go out to everyone. And so the 100.11 plan, making any kind of changes to that, Gus, I was thinking since we can do it at any time, we might consider getting some information back from our SLTs around their conversations that they had based on the activity that we're going to ask them to engage in and see where that takes us, right?
Right. There's no pressure, Danielle. The plan, like it will go in for every other district in the city, can be exactly like it was last year, pending, the new citywide, 100.11 reviews.
Okay, perfect. So it's, all right. So Dr. Mike, are you ready?
Yep. Everyone can see my screen? Yes, can you see my screen?
Your screen, Mike.
Okay. So just things that we're gonna quickly go over. We're gonna connect them to our each of the goals that we've established thus far for this school year. We're gonna talk about ELA and the subgroups that were identified inside of our goals, including all students, our Hispanic subgroup, our Black subgroup, our L subgroup, and our other ELA connected goals, the one around MTSS. We've kind of called it our effective leadership goal. And that's really connecting our students with disability subgroups. So we'll talk a little bit about that data. Mathematics, we'll be talking about our all student subgroup, Hispanic subgroup, Black subgroup, L subgroup as well. And we will also talk a little bit about our chronic absenteeism rates at this point of the school year. So,
Dr. Mike, before you go on, one of the things I just want to make the DLT aware of is that this is K-8 data.
So yeah, Danielle, what they're going to see here is I did remove just for this is grades 3 to 8. So I took out K1 and 2.
Right, sorry, because we did give our schools an option not to give the benchmarks to kindergarten, the formalized district-wide benchmarks, only because of what we had spoken about with you guys in terms of parent supports, which would be expected virtually for our youngest learners. There was a lot of parent support coming in through our kindergarten testing in October. Some of our kindergartners were scoring up 6th and 7th grade reading levels and math levels. So we did not necessarily feel that it was accurate data. So
yeah.
thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. So as you guys know, our ELA goal was really connected to improving student proficiency, knowing our students well, building some of those really strong data systems, to ensure that we were improving the instructional core and, focusing on priority learning standards for our kids with an emphasis on specific subgroups, our Hispanic, Black, and L populations. What you'll see here, this is an overarching view. Now, just so you know, what I did have to do, and this is, one of the things you do have to know is that these are coming from four different, assessments. So I merged them together. So each assessment measures student growth in different ways. So this is, a combination of all of those. In terms of merging information across schools. So what we have seen across grades 3 to 8 is a small increase. It's nearly 2% from fall to winter for our children at this point of the school year. I will talk a little bit about what projections say that we will be at the end of the year towards the latter part of the ELA conversation. Our Hispanic subgroup, you will also notice that there was about a 1.5% change from fall to winter benchmark. And again, these bar graphs you will have access to should you need them. I'll put them in our DLT page if you want to examine them a little bit more closely. But you will see that there is a slight change for our Hispanic subgroup from fall to winter. The most significant change amongst our subgroups was with our Black population. You'll notice here from our level 1 and level 2, there has been a change in terms of performance, an increase of those children at level 3, and then as well our level 5 students, our Black population. One thing that I do want to make sure is pretty clear at this point of the year. Level 4 and level 5 is indicative of children that are currently on grade level or above. Level 3 are children that are moving towards that range. And now, obviously, a level 1, level 2 students are children that we need to continue to work through and work on. So, just so that you're aware of what these percentages mean, we are still looking to grow, obviously, all of our subgroups. But please know that level 3 means that they are children that are approaching that level 4 and hopefully at some point that level 5 zone. Our L subgroup, you'll also notice a change. There's been some growth for our Ls by around 4%. In general, what we've seen in ELA is that we are roughly around 16% at the end of the year of children that are testing at the proficient level. We are near that range right now for our English language learners and hope to grow for them by the end of the year. You will notice that at level 1, it is still a significant population, part of our population that is still growing, that still needs a lot of room to grow, has a lot of room to grow. And that includes our children that are entering and emerging within the English language. So we do have a significant number of children that are in that range. What do we learn from this data? So because we have multiple assessments, one of the two largest is our MAP and our iReady assessment. We noticed that the largest percentage of students that were at tier 2 and tier 3 was in the vocabulary section of the assessment. High performance rates were evident in the foundational areas of phonological awareness, phonics, and high frequency words, which is a good thing, and that we were able to see across grade levels, and most kids have tested out of those areas by the time they get into 3rd grade. We do have some work that we need to pay attention to in the early childhood grades, just because of some variation that we see, just because of children perhaps receiving some of that additional support from family members at home. And the MAP assessment indicates that students' performance across domains. So what we did notice is that our middle school children from fall to winter did not show the type of growth that we saw in our elementary school students from fall to winter. And I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like right now. So for our all student subgroup, you will see, and this does include our K through 8, but we did see in general a nearly 6% change for our elementary schools. Comparing fall to winter tells a little bit of a different story from what I showed you, grades 3 through 8. Our Hispanic subgroup definitely demonstrated, positive gains on the iReady, nearly a 5% change, reduction in students 2 or more grade levels below. Our Black subgroup as well, showing 4.5% change overall, and reduction of students that are 2 or more grade levels below. And our L population as well, when we're talking about iReady, showed a 6.5% change from fall screener to winter. Now, when we're talking about the MAP assessment, the MAP assessment does tell a bit of a different story. Let me just show you this really quickly. The MAP assessment does tell a different story in each of our subgroups on the MAP assessment. And MAP assessment is all of our middle schools, not all of our, 5 of our middle schools and 1 K to 8. The only subgroup that showed a positive change was our grade 8 Black subgroup that improved by 8%. Other than that, we did see a decline in our middle schools across grades 6 to 8 when we compare fall to winter. So there's a lot more work, obviously, that we need to pay attention to in those grade levels. And we can go through this in greater depth if that's something that you would like to do. But the overarching numbers are what they are, and then what I shared with you on the previous page. But when we're looking at this, you can see that there is a significant change. This is just one of our subgroups from fall to winter. You can see the change in performance. From one group to the next. So here is the Black subgroup that I was referencing before, 36% from 28, which is really, really important. But when we look at other subgroups, for example, our Hispanic grade 6, you'll see in the fall, it was at a 38% range to 30% here in the winter. So there is a change that's happened there, which has impacted the overarching growth for the district, because we are looking at two different assessments. One where we saw increases primarily for elementary, and then one where we saw decreases primarily when we're talking about middle school for our children in ELA. So there are lots of variables that could play a role into that, and that's what we are currently looking into at this time. So it does mean that we need more attention to our units, to our lessons, and to the assessment itself to see what it is that's impacting that lack of a change from one assessment to the other, and one grade level group to the other. The effective school leadership goal, this was really around MTSS and the changes that we are putting into place for our data systems across our schools. Our building leaders have been really working quite hard on making adjustments to how they're managing information, and that's something that Ms. Domingo and I have been working on with them quite a bit, and organizing information so that we can be more strategic. So we are in process of that now, and they are really, really doing a nice job of organizing the data that's coming to them so that it's more user-friendly for us as a community, which is why I can take all of this information at this point and organize it for us to see what's going on across all of our schools in District 25. So the goal was really about around MTSS. Ooh, that didn't change. Why didn't that change? This should have been the MTSS goal, I'm sorry. And that was really about building MTSS structures so that our students with disabilities would improve in ELA. So the subgroup district reading, our SWD subgroup did remain flat. There was not a change between fall and winter. There was about a little less than 0.5% change for our children in levels 4 and 5, and about 0.8%, 0.85% change in our level 3s, but that was because of a little bit of a reduction in levels 3 and 4. Our mathematics goal, this goal was to decrease the achievement gap of our targeted subgroups, our Black, Hispanic, Ls.
You have your ELA Bitmoji on that one.
What did I do here? I made some mistakes on this, and I changed all of those too. I don't know what I did. Sorry, guys. I'll have to change my Bitmoji. That should be me in math and cheering. I'll fix that. Sorry. So our overall in mathematics, when we compare our fall to winter, we did see a positive change here by a couple percent in mathematics. So we are on an upward trajectory in math in terms of overall performance from fall to winter. Obviously, a lot more room to grow when we're talking about our all students population. We did see positive changes in terms of the growth of our subgroups, particularly the most significant amount of growth did occur with our Black population from fall to winter. There was about a 6% change for our children from fall to winter in terms of our Black population. In general, there was about a 2.5% change in our subgroup performance. But the one that was the most the greatest change did happen with our Black subgroup from fall to winter, and that you can see here, and hopefully you can see my cursor on those particular sections. Our L subgroup also did improve by about 3.5%. So we are making progress with our subgroups, and the most significant part in terms of decreasing achievement gaps is that you do see that particularly with our Black subgroup as they outperformed our other subgroups by a couple of percent by themselves as well. So, obviously more work to be done there, but it is a positive sign for our math work. Now, what did we notice? We did notice that from the iReady assessment, the strand that where our students perform the highest is one that I do believe is really important, and that is in the algebra and algebraic thinking section, which 62% of our students were currently on or above grade level in. And the lowest performing domain was in geometry. For the MAP assessment, overall, we did see a decline and this is similar pattern as to what we saw in the reading assessment, decrease across domains from fall to winter. Statistics and probability and geometry were the areas with the greatest deficiency. So there is deeper analysis that is required for this, but one thing that I do want to make you aware of is at times, because mathematics, sometimes the content is not necessarily something that is taught, all at the beginning of the year or all at the end. So there may be certain standards that the children hadn't learned yet, which may also be contributing to overall performance levels in mathematics. We do have a ways to go, but I do believe that we are going to be making, be in line with what our progress has been in previous years in math. Again, similar, just a quick comparison, just so that you guys can see. The overall iReady data that we do have from fall to winter shows about a 6% change in performance, reduction of number of percentage of students that are above, 2 or more grade levels below, which is really important. And here's just a quick little piece that I think, just for you guys to see. Now, the Pacific Islander, American Indian, very, very small subgroups, just so that you guys are aware. But we have seen a positive change in all of our subgroups when we're looking at the iReady data. Our Black, Hispanic, white subgroups, our L subgroups, all with positive gains comparatively to our Asian population, which typically performs at the highest level in the district. So performance-wise, we are seeing positive changes, especially with our elementary school. We did, again, as I mentioned earlier, see a little bit of a difference between that and our middle school performance on the MAP assessment. So that is kind of where we are with ELA and math at this particular time. Our parent engagement goal, what happened? All of these things got all mixed up. I'm sorry, my emojis are a mess.
Yeah, Dr. Mike, can I just talk about, I mean, did you include a next step slide, what we're doing, for benchmarking? In addition to, because I just wanted to, so we don't have to kind of flip back, just kind of talk about how we're going to pivot now in terms of math and ELA. So just so the team knows, I had a what we call field day with Executive Superintendent Mabel Sardoui. So what we do is we unpack this data and go through it all. And we talk about the strengths of the district, and there are many. And then we talk about next step areas. So moving forward, some of the pivots that we're doing based on this data is very connected to our My Brother's Keeper work. So as you know, our plan has always been working on K-3, getting students to read at grade level. We've also taken our equity lens around Regents readiness coursework and making sure that our students have the extra push that they need, so they'll have access to the Regents earlier in middle school. So then that would give them access to take more advanced courses in high school. So our targets are in two ways to kind of pivot and really address some of the skill strengths that we're seeing to kind of continue to increase them, but also our area of weaknesses. So we know, and something that you are going to hear lots and lots of discussions about are learning loss. And we know that that's happening, right? And I think that's where a lot of our frustration comes in with, as parents and as educators, just in our current learning environment and the struggles that we face, that there is going to be some learning loss. So District 25, in using data like we have and looking at it from the district level, we then take that data and engage in conversations with our principals and our assistant principals, our guidance counselors, and then in turn, our building leaders take that and engage in conversations with teachers around data. So our expectation is that we are a full data-driven culture. That does not mean that the data we're presenting to you and the assessments that they're using are the be-all end-all, right? Because they may not be. But what it does is it sparks the conversation, because we do know that the people who see children's outcomes every day are our teachers, right? So if we get our teachers thinking from a learning loss and a data-driven culture, it will make their jobs easier too, to know that you're looking at what these assessments will say. You're going through the curriculum that we have in place and the pre and post standards-based assessments that are given, in a formative and summative way at, during units of study. And then we're really planning strategically to say, here's what our students know, and here's what they don't know, and here's how we know. So our work in math is a big push through Metamorphosis that is doing a series for our 6th grade middle school teachers, because what's really important for us to train them in is that when our kids come, and there's some things that they're doing right now as they're learning, but it's also about when our kids come to them, our 5th graders come to them in September, that these teachers right away assess their learning and have that understanding in alignment to the priority standard. So actually, that's where Dr. Mike was this morning. He was in a metamorphosis training with our teachers and supporting them through that work. So Dr. Mike, I don't know if you want to just mention that a little bit, kind of where they are in that work.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot about building student conceptual understanding, and what they are really engaging in at this time is connected to routines and practices that will elicit some of those responses from our kids. Having a daughter who's in 6th grade, and watching sometimes the delivery of mathematics that she receives in my home district is very much along the lines of a procedural rote type of an experience. And the disadvantage to that is really not knowing, where the mathematics is coming from and how it's connected in a way that allows them to make sense of different situations when they arise. So what our teachers are currently being exposed to right now, and have also been in the past, and what we're continuing to build upon, is that conceptual understanding for our students. So the training that I was in today and the previous 2 that they've received since we've started this work with them is really around building teacher knowledge, content, pedagogy, and such to support our kids in the classroom with their conceptual understanding of the work. So we're excited about it. We had a teacher share today and shared her excitement about a strategy that she learned during a previous session that helps support her kids in the classroom with something that they're learning right now. So that's kind of where we are with that. We've also started some work with Bank Street College as well to really build instructional practice across grade levels. So we're really excited about that work also. And one of the other pieces, and that's what you will find in the DCEP that has changed, has been the addition of these new training sessions that we've added as a result of the analysis of the data that we've been receiving back from these assessments that we are giving our kids. And again, these are things that we are learning through and growing through as well, in terms of the assessment process that our children are going through, and the information that we're receiving back from it and how we're using it. So, and that's kind of what Danielle was alluding to in terms of that talk. But that's where we are right now with the math instruction, with the math professional learning.
And our work with Apple also really does enhance this, because it is around task design and the impact on student learning, getting teachers to think about how you're designing tasks and what the intention of the task is. So Dr. Mike, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and that is something that we just finished our first cohort. We actually have to do a final piece where we kind of organize the tasks that our teachers have redesigned to really promote this idea of transfer of knowledge and skills that the kids are learning. So what our teachers were exposed to, and our administrators, was a model called, that allows teachers to think through the work from this idea of acquisition of knowledge to meaning making to transfer, and really having them kind of review the tasks that they've developed to see what kind of lens do they see it through. Is it really more of kids are just acquiring knowledge? Are they able to use that information in some way that allows them to really make meaning from it? And then the last part of it all is really, how do they take those skills and put it into and apply it to a real world type of situation? So we have seen changes in what our teachers are asking our kids to do based on these training sessions. And one example that I will give you resulted in children engaging with local politicians, in terms of an activity that the kids had participated in, making it more real world, was them being exposed to having those conversations with someone who's in a real world scenario that can answer some of the questions that the kids had, to support their ability to write a little bit about it. So we have seen some really exciting shifts in teacher thinking and organization of tasks as a result. And we're going to continue that work with Apple as we move through the remainder of this school year. So we're really excited about that. We had a significant number of schools participate across our elementary and middle school, with a significant number of teachers. So over 100 participants across each of those two particular cohorts of schools, elementary and middle. So we're looking to continue to grow that work, because that's really what it's all about. It's about taking the information that we have and putting it in a real world scenario so that we're building that engagement of our children, while they're in the classroom, or even thinking about it long thereafter, which is really what the goal of this work is. So that's kind of where we are in both ELA and math professional learning, along with what our schools are doing themselves within the context of their own work in their own schools for their own individual needs. But it does bring me to our parent engagement goal, and that goal was really around building 75% of.
Wait, Mike, I need to go back.
Yeah, go. I
Sorry.
can't see you guys, so I'm just looking at my screen, so I can't tell.
So the second piece of the math work that we're doing is we were able to secure funds to continue our Bank Street work. And I think that's really important for you guys to know that that's our early childhood math work. And as just the same way we're starting with 5th through 8th, just in terms of building math skills to prepare for Regents readiness, we believe that if we start early on and support our teachers in understanding math concepts and math skills and strategies and what that looks like based on key standards, that will support our students in their math language and their math understandings and skill sets even at an earlier grade. So so that is going to be starting in a few weeks. And that also does include supports for our teachers in teaching in a virtual platform, as well as a parent piece. And so we're really excited about that work. And that is going to help us just further establish our lab site school. So we are excited to continue that work and push for closing those learning gaps along the way throughout the year. We know that they're still going to exist in September, but we want to make sure that we get to them as cohesive and as targeted as possible. Our second math touch point is also around our MBK work, where we have organized an MTSS program for not math, I'm sorry, for reading. We have organized an MTSS program for our students who are not reading at grade level in second grade at this time, right, Mike? Second grade.
K through 2.
So we currently have how many kids? 80.
I'm sorry, K through 3. It's K through 3.
80. How many kids?
We have about 75 that have registered.
Okay, so 75 students who have registered. It is going to be an MTSS targeted reading intervention program 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings for these students. And so we're really excited about that work, really hoping to provide small group instruction for our students to support them in their reading, which leads me to something that I will also be talking about at the CEC meeting, really important. We want to talk about our reading curriculum and the expectations of reading that were happening prior to the pandemic that I think is important for families to know. So, even myself, I had always questioned reading instruction and how to evaluate reading instruction. It's been a conversation that we've had with teachers for years. And what I've realized is missing during this pandemic is a teacher's ability to assess and support student thinking during independent reading time. And so there is clear deficits that we are seeing happening because students are not with their teachers during independent reading time, where a teacher could actually assess a student's thinking either by the work they did on Post-its or just watching students' faces after a mini lesson. So what we are seeing and things that we need to work on between now and the end of the school year are twofold. First, our students are scoring there's deficits that we're seeing in vocabulary in the elementary school levels. So we're going to work with the borough to set up some trainings for our teachers that specifically focus on what our data says, not just these random trainings, right? To show our teachers, like, these assessments are saying that our students are weak in vocabulary. We want to support you through the teaching of that, right? And that's part of setting this data-driven culture, right? I keep saying things such as, without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right? And sometimes even the best professionals, doctors, lawyers, anyone, engineers, even, without information, basically what winds up happening is you may do something that makes a difference, or you may not, right? So as part of this data-driven culture, we want to start showing our teachers that we too, as a district, are looking at the needs of our students and really targeting our expectations aligned to that. So there will be vocabulary professional learning for our teachers between now and the end of the year. Following this meeting today, I have a meeting with the borough to align that. And then secondly, and this should be for middle school, high school, our kids have stopped reading, right? And that is actually showing up in the data. So we're also going to be doing something on engaging students to read more, getting them, we think about this, people our age, we didn't have all this technology. So we were forced to read, like if you wanted any entertainment while you were sitting home, didn't have the TV shows and the access to TV and technology that you had. So you picked up a book and you read, or you read a newspaper, or you read a comic book, or you did something, but you didn't spend all this time on technology. So we are seeing a reduction in reading. So we are going to do a big push in our 5 to 8th grades in reading in the content areas, reading different genres, and just overall reading in general, and that will include a parent piece as well. So we just wanted to let you know where that push is really going to come from. We welcome any kind of feedback or ideas just about how we can continue to push reading, because we know, and for the parents on here, and that's not just the parent representatives on DLT, myself as a parent, I know Dr. D'Antona as a parent, our kids are not reading the way that they should and the way that they would have been in school. So I see, Joe, you have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Have you noticed the difference between those students that are in person and those that are 100% remote? Or is it the same?
So you know what? That might be an area, Mike, that we look at. We can break down data. We have not done that per se, but we, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so the performance for children at home has trended for a higher performance for children that were taking the assessments at home comparatively to those that were in school. That is a trend that they have noticed.
But that doesn't mean it's a valid trend.
Right. So
so
there's more, more data gathering that definitely needs to be done. This is, the first time that that we've experienced assessments in being administered in this way. So, I think more information needs to be gathered, but I think the value in the assessments is to be able to drill down and kind of get a clearer picture as to what kids can or can't do at this time based on what they see, and then combining that with what they're noticing in class when kids are submitting assignments and tasks and things of that nature, to really support what's going on in the classroom. But in general, Joe, what there has been evidence that there has been a greater trend, a trend showing that children that took the assessment at home performed at higher levels than children that took it in school.
But there also could have been less controls over the assessment taken at home, right? In other words,
yes. So that
a misstatement also, right?
Yeah, the testing environment is obviously different, and some of it might be just because kids are able to be more relaxed in their home environment than they are in a school environment taking a test. So there are a lot of variables that play a role into what may be causing that. Then we're able to necessarily examine fully right now, but
which is why we're also saying things such as, so if we have this data-driven culture, we present the data as we receive it, right? And then we work with teachers and administrators to basically say, all right, let's look at this further and see where this translates into the classroom and what it can and should look like, right? So to ask questions such as, let's look at what kids are doing at home, and this is a 4th grade class, and I'm, Ms. DeMango teaching the 4th grade class. How many students are getting assistance from their parents, and is that skewing the data? That's where we get that further information, but it's, and it is part of the work that we're going to be doing with our administrators and teachers as we kind of roll this out for them.
Yeah,
Just
and
go ahead.
I know that our schools have also engaged parents in these conversations as well. In terms of testing conditions and what they should look like, and why we really need our kids to take these assessments on their own. It's so that we're getting that clear snapshot of performance. And not for performance sake, right? It's for getting an understanding as to what standards they may be struggling with, he or she may be struggling with. I think.
Yeah, so our message to parents is really about, if we're talking as a district that we're looking at learning gaps and learning lags, then we ask that you allow your children to take the test at home as authentically as possible, because we can't really target that if we don't have that information. So if you're helping your child, then we're not really getting a clear picture. The information that we're using is not used for any other reason except supporting students. It's not used for placement. It's not used for consideration at the school level. It's not used for anything like that. It is solely used for us to get an idea of where students are. So supporting your child in that way is really not allowing us to provide the targeted supports that we would want to for children. So, and we'll be really clear on that. So before Mike goes on to the next part of our goals, what this data has also showed, and make no mistake, a lot of people are going to be unhappy because, Mike knows when I get a bee in my bonnet, like where I go with this. So, I think we've done superb work with our principals and teachers, and our teachers have been phenomenal at the elementary school level because it has been our area of focus. And as part of our area of focus, we've looked at elementary schools, but our middle schools are in for a rude awakening because that is going to be our focus next year. You're going to see that, in our DLT goals and our DCEP goals that we're going to present to you guys next month. That middle schools, we need a lot of support in this work and in targeting learning lags, because it's not just about teachers of content. I was a middle school teacher. We are trained as teachers to teach content. But we're going to have to go through some retraining of our teachers about teaching to learning lags and understanding data and making sure you get your children where they need to be from 5th grade to 8th grade. So, okay, Mike, you can continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Danielle. I think it's all important stuff, and a lot of these things that Danielle talked about are things that we kind of added into the DCEP document in terms of the training supports that we put in place. So it connects directly to the data that we have gathered. And Joe, something that certainly I can look a little bit deeper at is that difference between blended and for children that are in person versus at home. And even that has a lot of variables too, because of the children that were home and chose to come back. And, there's some variation there as well that we would have to consider. But in terms of chronic absenteeism, our goal was to get at least 75% of our subgroups to a position where they would be at a level 2 or 3 or 4. At this point of the year, and we had a total of 44 subgroups across District 25 that were considered by the state to be a level 1 in terms of chronic absenteeism levels. Right now, if the year would end, this was as of 2/26, 59% of those subgroups would have an improved attendance rate that would move them to a level 2 or greater. When we're using the ESSA benchmarks as a measurement. We do have 2 subgroups that are still looking a little bit more closely at, and that makes up an additional 5%, which we will certainly is trending towards that meeting as well. But a little bit more digging is needed in those particular subgroups. In general, we are seeing positive trends across subgroups when it comes to attendance rates and attendance levels in terms of chronic absenteeism across subgroups. So improvements are being made, and I attribute a lot of this to the structures that Mr. Mango put in place. In part, one in particular is school case teams, and the case teams in our buildings are really responsible for taking a look at data on a routine basis and doing that outreach to families to see what is needed in terms of supports to make sure that our children are in school every single day. As we noted in during the first benchmark, and I can include this for this one, I did not share a slide with this, but when children are present, their outcomes improve. If they are not in school, they're not going to necessarily do as well. And that to me is just logical. If you're not in school, it's very difficult to learn. But we are seeing positive outcomes from this. And I'm hopeful that by the end of the year, we will meet at minimum that 75% improvement mark for children for subgroups that are at level 1 in regards to ESSA. One of the other components to our work was promoting parent chats across the district, and we are seeing our schools are implementing them. We are seeing the questions that they're asking and what they're connected to. And just wanted to give you some quotes from some of our parent participants that I thought were worth showing, and worth hopefully by the end of the year, the DLT having conversations around what this looks like moving forward as a district. But one parent saying, "I liked hearing from everyone and no one was kept quiet. Hearing different views, that it was thought-provoking and helped reflect on their own behaviors and parenting styles, helping navigate new and challenging world with our children. Appreciated the dialogue with their fellow parents." So these are really important components to this work, just in terms of how parents feel about being exposed to this type of chat. It's different from some of the parent meetings perhaps that all of us have been engaged in the past. This is really about being targeted, hearing what our parents have to say, and then making adjustments as necessary at the school level. And that's what we've been hearing happening from our school leaders, and our parent coordinators, that parents are really appreciating the conversations that they're able to have, and more importantly, that they're able to share what their thinking is around school-wide improvement efforts. And it's contributing to adjustments in school. Danielle, is there anything else that you wanted to say about the parent chats?
No, I just think they're great. We have not gotten any. We've only gotten such great feedback from our parents. So thank you.
Yeah, the feedback has been terrific. Our parent coordinators are getting far more comfortable with this, and we have a few of them that are coming up. Part of this work is certainly making sure that we're reaching other families and families that may not have that opportunity because of the language that they speak. So
tomorrow, and we will send you guys the link after this meeting. So Jinmei, I know you're on here, remind me. Tomorrow, Jinmei and Esther are hosting parent chats in Spanish and Chinese. So we're really excited about that work. And I do want to just give a huge shout out for great work done by our parent coordinators. Our parent coordinators have just really been tremendous in getting this work done. I remember in the beginning of the year when we first started talking about and trying to define what a parent chat was, and our parent coordinators kept saying, like, we do this every day. We talk to parents all the time. And it has just really taken a whole new meaning where parents are really part of decision making and an influence on what's happening, especially now during this pandemic, and what learning looks like and how we're communicating with one another. So we're really excited about that work. So we'll send you the links to our parent chats in different languages if you're interested. Okay, sorry, Dr. D'Antoni.
Yeah, no, totally fine. And the last goal is our supportive environment goal. Really talking about the analysis of data. This does connect very much to the case team work and the work of our counselors. What I'm really happy about is that every single one of our schools has administered our kids a social emotional learning survey I think it's super important for us to get the perspectives and perceptions of our kids in terms of how they're feeling across the 5 SEL competencies that are supportive of the growth of our children. So self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship building, and responsible decision-making are the 5 core competencies for SEL. And one of our elements of our goal was that our counselors not only have this counseling plan, but are developing these tiered types of support. So part of our training and part of our work that we've done with our counselors, and our counselors then in conjunction with their case teams back at their building, was to really start thinking about social emotional learning in a tiered type of way. So one of the things that we've asked that they do was establish this plan, and this one's just a sample of what it looks like. It's not a complete one. I will show you an example of a completed one in a moment. But what I wanted to know, what Mr. Mango wanted to know from them was, based on your social emotional learning survey, what did you notice within these core competencies? What was the area that showed you the perceptions that were really concerning for you at the school level? And then from there is, so if this is an area of struggle, what are you currently doing? What's the current practice that is being implemented in your school? And then what we wanted to know is, so based on all of that information and based on the data that you've collected, what is a tier 1 support that is going to now be implemented to all children, in your school? And when we say all children, in some cases, they are doing this at a grade level or a couple of classes in a pilot sense, because again, we're looking to grow this work across our buildings, and some of our schools are in a little bit of a different place than others in terms of rollout of a tiered approach. So we're learning through this process and the analysis of these social emotional learning perception surveys. So there's a tier 1 approach, which, this is what's going to happen to our whole class. A tier 2 approach, meaning targeted subgroup support, small group support for our children in a given competency. And then tier 3 for children that have, based on student perception and what we know about them, receiving some tier 3 one-on-one type of support with our counselor, or perhaps someone from the case team as well. So the goal of all of this is for our schools, much like what we're asking for in ELA and math, to become very strategic around how we're looking at information and then using it to support our kids at various levels and in various ways. Because we know that we do need to make sure that we're meeting our children where they are, and supporting them as necessary through a tiered approach. So what this has resulted in is our schools developing plans and action plans that support the areas of need that they have. So for this particular school, it was around relationship building, and you can see that and I added in some of my own little feedback in here for our schools. But you'll see that inside of this work is around their Fun Friday activities and building relationships with kids across their community. It was also about implementation of small groups and the use of a particular program for at-risk female students. And then finally, around that small group, one of those individual check-ins for their children that are demonstrating need based on the data that they've collected, which you can see is highlighted here. So that is really the approach that we're really pushing upon all of our building leaders and our counselors to really dig in and figure out what are those SEL supports that are needed for our kids to grow. Because it is very clear to me anyway that when our children are having a difficult time social emotional learning wise, and research will indicate this, and I know Mr. Mango truly believes this as well, is that when we have certain issues with managing our emotions, it makes it very difficult to learn inside of our classrooms. So that is what the overarching goal of this work is to really promote improved outcomes for our kids through the social emotional learning work that they're doing in their buildings. And you can see percentage of students showing difficulty motivating themselves with in school. And then here comes the advisory lessons that are going to take place inside of their classrooms for those tier 1 children. Followed by the implementation of small group. So this is really about our schools getting very strategic in what they're asking at the school level, at each individual class, so that everything is organized and supportive of the needs of our kids. So those are our five goals that we've established, and I think right now we are on a positive trajectory to meeting the expectations of the goals that we've set forth, with a ton of work that still needs to be accomplished between now and the end of the year, to meet overarching benchmarks. But I think that the process that we're following, the trajectory that we're on, is one that is in line with meeting the expectations of our goals. So super excited about where we are, but know that we have tons of work to do to get to where we want to be.
Yep. So, so as Gus said, I think it's really important that we make sure that this is part of the minutes, and I know that it is on the agenda. So all of these, this data piece and the implications of it, such as our push for borough work, our metamorphosis training, our Bank Street training, the training on reading, has also been added to the DLT's action plans, DCEP's action plans. So, and you guys all have the link to review that, but I think it's important that as part of the agenda that we answer any questions that you may have around the DCEP, and then I will ask to make sure that we have consensus on finalizing it. So first, are there any questions regarding the DCEP? Okay, so then I'm going to ask for consensus in finalizing it. So we can just go through the list of people, and you would just say, I give consensus, so we have that in place and as a matter of record. Okay, so let me go through it. Hold on, the list. Okay, so Dr. McDonald.
I'm good.
Okay. Andre Bullock.
I'm good.
Brooke Sturgeon. You're muted, but okay.
I said yes.
Okay, thank you. Charlene Dawson.
I consent.
Joseph Sicone. I know Joe's doing multiple things. He's in a meeting and teaching. So Joe, if you hear me and if you could come back on, it's up to you. And then Lamar.
Yes, I consent. I'm good.
Okay, Rashmi.
I'm good.
Okay. Did I forget anyone? So Bill, like I said, you can today be on behalf of Superintendent Lindsay, if you choose to just make sure that everyone's okay with the DCEP.
I'll make sure.
Okay. Right. And Joe, if you hear us and you come back on, just make sure that that you're okay, and that high school UFT supports the changes and supports finalizing the DCEP. All right. So we're in a good place. So Gus, that's what we needed, right, for state accountability that we've approved.
And Danielle, thank you. That was truly a outstanding presentation, particularly at a time when the standardized tests and standard data is not available. District 25 has gone beyond the typical work on this, and I think you're a model. I want you to know that I recommended I told Rosanna Politano about all of this, and I asked her to inform Sharon Rencher about the initiatives that are being done in District 25. So I'm very appreciative and proud of the work that you're doing. So if we can move now to the CEP, because I'm concerned about the running out of time.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Louis, if you can get the CEP timeline up. The CEP, as you know, the schools have completed their CEP update in iPlan, and as of Friday, they began posting, I was told, on a rolling basis, the existing CEP updates that have been approved and certified by the superintendent. And District 25 is at 100%, which is not the case citywide. So again, you know, in Queens and North, I always make the point that I'm proud of the fact that we are on time and ahead of time on all of these approvals and other issues that need to be done. On the CEPs, I sent out a, now this is the ones that just are being put out and made public on a rolling basis. I put out a reminder to all the superintendents to remind the schools to look at the information section. My concern was that some of the information in those information sections are old. What Central did is they pre-populated it for every school, and in some cases it might have the wrong principal. In many cases it has the wrong executive superintendent because we had a change. So I strongly suggested that all schools take a look at that. And there's still time to do that because, as I said, that they're going to be updated and posted on a rolling basis. Between now and the next meeting in April, DLT members, look for the schools that you're concerned with. And if you're not seeing that they get posted in, you know, the next couple of weeks, please email me and let me know. And I will run after Central to find out why, you know, a particular CEP has not been posted yet. Because I assume that they'll all be done by our next meeting in April. So that takes care of the current CEP updates. The new CEPs, the timeline shows you here that it's announced the template is supposed to be issued officially April 6th. That's the new template. I have seen it. It is a full template. There are no surprises in it. It's arranged by AOC, and what they've done is they've brought back some of the pieces related to needs assessments and Title I that used to exist and that were taken out for a while, and they're being brought back in. So it'll be a full CEP template, and that will be done online in iPlan. And April 6th is the release date. Now, between now and April 6th, what Central has done is they put together a package of needs assessment tools and resources for schools, because SLTs are supposed to start the process of looking at their data and assessing data and working on new CEP goals based on whether they achieved the old goals or not, and the priorities going forward. Now, by May 31st, the budgets are going to be out, and by June 15th, schools use iPlan to submit their preliminary language allocation policies, etc. And by June 30th, principals complete their attestation of their preliminary goals and budgets. There's nothing new with that, ladies and gentlemen. It's a state regulation. Every year, every school by June 30th has to have preliminary goals, and then the superintendents will certify those goals by the end of July. You see that in the timeline. And again, I'm always proud of the fact that my superintendents and my schools always do everything on time. So I'm fully confident that by July 30th, or if not before, we'll be at 100% certification of preliminary goals and budget alignment. Now, if there are no questions, and then going forward, it tells you about the full CEP and the rest of the timeline for getting feedback and working out next year's CEP. And like I said, by our April meeting, before our April meeting, the CEP template should be out. I already have the draft document that they gave me. I looked at it, but I was told that until the release date, I was not to circulate it. So I know it's already in place and should be released on time. Okay, now, Louis, if you can put up the CEP guidance on conducting a comprehensive needs assessment. It's a one-pager. This is one pager. By the way, all of these documents were sent to all of you. So you have them all, and they were released in a Principal's Digest. So all of the schools have them as well. Now, the one pager, which Louis will shortly get up, it tells you the different pieces on conducting, that's the one, a comprehensive needs assessment. Now, we've seen this before. Reviewing multiple data sources, analyzing trends, identifying root causes, and it gives you additional resources and links. If you see there on the bottom, if you could scroll down, and you already have this, but I'm not going to send it to you. Scroll down, Louis. On the bottom of this sheet, there we are, it says CEP Needs Assessment Worksheet. So for the SLTs, there's a worksheet. It's a grid, ladies and gentlemen. And the purpose of the grid is that it's to help SLTs utilize the data and go through the process of doing their deep dive into the various assessments. It's arranged by AOC, and the AOCs haven't changed. Everybody knows what those are. You're familiar with them right now. Those are areas of concentration. Now, the other item, and I'm not going to go over it, but I just want you to be aware of it, is a PowerPoint that Central has put out. If you can find that and throw it up there, Louis, I'd appreciate it. The title of it is Engaging Stakeholders in a Comprehensive Needs Assessment and Root Cause Analysis. So this is guidance that SLTs can use in addition to the various tools and resources. Now, one of the things that I did was I initially sent you a sheet that appeared in Principal's Digest, ladies and gentlemen, with all of the links that that the principals got for their SLTs. After I did that, I tried, I downloaded all the pieces, which you now have, but I found that some of those links required you to be a principal. So I knew that some DLT members would not be able to get at the information. So what I did was I then downloaded all of the pieces, and you have them all now in separate pieces. So if you see that other sheet that lists everything from Principals Weekly, you may not be able to get them through those links, but don't worry about that. I've already given you all the information. So the PowerPoint.
So Gus, I don't have the PowerPoint. It was not in Danielle's email.
Okay, so let me just talk to it. Was the PowerPoint sent to everybody? Because if it was not, I can send it to you again, and that could be sent to everybody so they have it. When I went through the PowerPoint, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not a very long PowerPoint, but the thing that I was pleased to see is on slide number 7, you can write that down. There's a statement. It says, what measures can schools use in the absence of state assessment data. So Central, when they put it together, they fully realized that the standardized data was not available. Now, remember, not all districts have the outstanding data uniformity and assessments of District 25 that we just heard about, the maps, iReady, everything else, and things have not been standardized to a degree that they have in this district. So when they put this together, they put down the various categories and included the various categories that in the absence of standardized tests can be utilized, like at the high school level, mock regents, for example, and some of the other assessments like MAP that you've been talking about here. So it did take the new environment into account, and I was pleased to see that, and it took you through the various levels and the kinds of data categories that could be utilized for the analysis. Now, in my meeting last week, I was also told that, well, you know, the new trend, folks, is that for schools, Central is moving to doing webinars, which in some cases are more advantageous because, you know, the timing of them, instead of doing live presentations. I'm told that they will be doing a webinar and make that available to all schools on doing data analysis and root cause analysis. That goes, I guess, beyond just the PowerPoint presentation. So look for that. As soon as I get that information, I will send that out to the schools and through the superintendent's office, although it'll appear independently in Principal's Digest. Now, what they've been doing in the past, and I don't know if they're actually going to do this, is also instructing us to support if any schools want additional support beyond the webinar to for the district to hold these office hours. And I've participated in District 25 and some of my other districts in office hours as well. So I'm assuming that there will be an opportunity if anybody needs additional help to do office hours on needs assessment. And this is all, the whole purpose of it is looking forward to the new CEP and doing the data analysis that will inform schools in drafting their preliminary goals and action plans going forward. That's come up lately a lot for me, and I've been dealing with schools on an individual basis, is on the old CEP. I neglected to mention, people had three options, either emailing and collecting emails and then scanning those emails and putting them into into iPlan on the SLT signature pages. That's for the old CEP. So I've been dealing with schools either with DocuSign or with the old, the traditional way of just signing the sheet and scanning it on. So principals have been contacting me, and we're in good shape. I believe the majority, if not all of our schools, are uploading those signature pages into iPlan, and we'll be complete on that. Also, I'm told that iPlan has had some difficulties, which, you know, with technology. This is standard in provisioning SLT members. So as I've told you in the past, I'm available 24/7 to every school in District 25 that needs assistance. They either call me or email me, and I will manually provision any SLT member that needs provisioning, as long as the principal, I interact with the principal. I never do anything independent of the principal. So the principal emails me, they can't provision somebody, and I manually take care of it. So if you notice any provisioning issues or are aware of them, forward them to me. and I will take care of them. Any questions on the new and the old CEP and the data analysis, ladies and gentlemen? No?
No, and we'll be able to support that at the district level, Gus, with our leaders.
You know, we have a wonderful partnership. We always work together on everything. Okay, so then moving right along, the DCIP signatures, I've gotten most of them. What I will do is I'll survey again on the DCIP signatures through DocuSign, which I don't find it that it's the easiest thing to work with. What I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm bringing it up again. If you get a DCIP email from me, and you've already signed the DocuSign, just ignore it. I've been told that the machine, when I send out reminders, only sends it out to the people who haven't signed. But from other interactions that I've had, I find that that's not always the case. So you're going to be looking for a new email for signature on the DCEP, not IPEP. So that I haven't done yet, and I will get to that over the next couple of days. And you know, you've been troopers in signing these things already, so you become accustomed to DocuSign. I guess it's a waiver of the future. So look for that being sent out to you again. Status of Title I meetings and PAC. The district is almost 100% complete on those certifications, attestations for holding the meetings and doing the survey, the Title I survey. I've got two schools that I don't remember if I emailed the superintendent and deputy about in District 25 that are on the incomplete list. I will reach out to those schools myself and make sure that everything is okay. That was the SLT viewing. We're 100% on the Title I PAC stuff in District 25. The SLT viewing, remember that they were supposed to view the webinar and then attest that they viewed it. I've got two schools, and what's happened is in reaching out to schools in other districts, I found that the principals tell me, I did this. What do you mean I didn't do it? And so I've gone back to Central and emailed them and told them that, I'm contacting schools and they're telling me this has already been done. Please recheck your list. And I did that on Friday, so I'm waiting to hear about that. But we're in good shape on all of these issues. The PAC individuals are all in place in District 25, and I know that we have the DPAC representative. So I don't think that we, unlike many other places throughout the city, I don't think that we have any significant issues related to Title I and PAC. Do you concur, Superintendent and Deputy, and Esther, if you're there?
No, I mean, I think we're in a good place. We've done some really strategic work, and we're answering questions as they come in. But I think our PAC are a really good place. And I know that Brooke and Taylor are planning with Esther. They're going to be doing meetings with the PAC reps. And Brooke, do you want to? I see that you came on. You want to speak a little bit about that?
We haven't been able to meet yet, but we are going to meet this week. So definitely we'll have more info.
Yep. Perfect.
We had a meeting last week, Brooke and I, but Taylor had a death in the family, so that's why she wasn't able to attend. So that's why she's not here today either.
Okay.
Well, we are meeting to go ahead and set another meeting with all the Title I PAC chairpersons and alternates to come and have a meeting again.
Does that include the high schools?
Oh, I don't know.
No, Gus, are we supposed to include the high schools?
I've talked to Bill, I assume he's still on, about the Title I and PAC issues separately on the high schools. And they've all been done, and they've all been included. But in terms of, the DPAC at the district level, it is supposed to interact and include the high schools. So individual high school PACs, if you want to understand it, are Superintendent Lindsay's responsibility, and my liaison on that has been Bill Doyle, and I understand everything is in place. Anything at a district-wide, a geographic area interaction is a DLT and community school district responsibility to include the high schools. So, for example, when we did training and invited the high schools. So, am I being clear on the distinction?
Oh, I understand the distinction, but I think that a lot of high schools didn't realize they were a part of the DPAC on the district level. Because when I spoke to them and I told them about the elections, they said, what elections? They weren't invited.
Okay. Well, then that's something that maybe Esther can speak to the counterpart in Superintendent Lindsay's office and make sure that that need is addressed.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So yeah, Brooke, you have your first task. Esther will work with you and the high school, Esther, to connect with the high school so we can make sure that their elections and their PACs are in place as well.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Charlene.
And I'm aware of just so I can be clear, on an individual high school basis, when I got the lists from Central on high school PAC representatives, it's my understanding that those are all in place, because I was told.
I know they are. That wasn't my issue. My issue was they did not know that they were a part of the DPAC on the district level.
I understand. Okay, so that's something that you'll follow up on then.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a kind of Brooke and Taylor touching base, just in terms of constituencies and Bill, maybe connecting you that they could come to meet with the DPACs. I mean, the PACs when we call, the district meetings. So, and they could be part of that as well. And just to also know that Brooke and Taylor are there to answer questions that they may have about their own individual PACs.
Yes, and Brooke, can you please add Queens High School President's Council to the DPAC mailing list? Because we represent all the districts in Queens. Thank you.
High School.
QHSPC@gmail.com.
Thank you.
And since we're on the subject, I recently informed all of my superintendents that schools should take a look, and I know Dragomira has also been working with the fiscal people at the BCO to make sure that the 1% set aside for Title I funds has been encumbered and is being spent at the school level. Because Central is running reports on those funds, and particularly in this atmosphere where funding is such a national issue for schools, we want to make sure that all of our schools are spending and encumbering their Title I set-aside funds, the 1%, and Title I in general.
Yeah, so Brooke, we got a question today that I answered, but it was a good question. So I think there's this misunderstanding that a PAC gets kind of their own budget. So I clarified that Title I funds live in the school's budget. The work of the PAC is to, work with their parents, and the committee really talks about how that 1% will be spent. And then that information, which is a form, goes to the principal who works with the budget director to make sure that that money is spent. But the PAC doesn't necessarily have their own bank account. It's not separate and apart. So you might want to add that to the list of conversations that you have with your PAC reps, to just say, like, it's really that form that you fill out is part of public record, for the principal and for the community. Like, here's our final decision as to what we're submitting to the principal to spend our money on. The second thing is, there was another group that Gus and I had worked with who gave their money back to the school. They gave it to the principal to make that determination. Now, we really do discourage that, because we want it to be a full parent decision, and not to just give the money to the school to make that decision. So although it was permitted, because they did put it in writing that this is what the PAC committee decided to do, we do discourage that. We know that this was kind of rushed because our elections were in January, and now already we're up against having to make the decision. So the school did that. But if you could also, when you meet with Esther and Taylor, try to get that meeting with your PAC reps within the next week or so you can discuss that, because, and just make that part of kind of what you say to them all the time, that, like, we really discourage parents just saying, oh, take that 1% and give it back to the school to determine. We can support, you guys can support, Esther can support as well around decision making about how that money should be spent and how to communicate and engage with the community around it.
We'll definitely
Thank you,
do.
Danielle. I think I'm done. Is there any other questions?
Gus, I have a question. My PAC chairperson reached out to me as a PTA president, and he wanted to see, is there an email or a website where he can go to see how the Title I 1%, like the list that is used to allocate that 1%? I know that it was there in one of the trainings. You had shown that on the screen somewhere.
In the Title I training PowerPoint, the SLT training PowerPoint, there is a 2 slides, and it's in the appendices as well, that give you suggested and ways to spend the money and ways that is not allowed. Esther, you have that, don't you? Esther, are you are you still there?
Yes, I have it. I could forward it to you, Rashmi.
Okay, so that'll take care of that. Now, since you brought up the subject, I have some, long and fiscal experience with spending these funds. So you have to use contracted vendors. Otherwise, you get involved in more complicated procedures. And if you're unsure whether what you want to spend the money on is okay and it's through a contracted vendor, etc., and allowable, check with Dragomira, who is our SGO, and the budget people at the BCO.
Right. So Gus, just so you know, Dragomira is not necessarily the person that individual PAC should reach out to. They should reach out to Esther or Brooke and Taylor, and then we ask, right? Because Dragomira,
yeah, she's looking at it from the point of view of the whole borough.
Yeah, because she does the borough. She also does CEC. She does a lot of different things. So she asks that the questions really go through the elected DPAC rep or Esther, and then so we want to, Brooke, when you have that meeting, you want to kind of channel that to say, like, however you guys decide, if you want to have your own contact email to have people email you and Taylor directly. That could be one piece. And if not, it could always go through Esther and she can manage that for you guys and just give you the information. So that's up to you when you guys meet and make your decisions around that.
That's great. And I fully expect that when the next list comes out from Central, District 25 will be at 100%.
Yes, we will. But I think the most important part now, Brooke, is making sure that the PACs are filling out that document that says what the money is going to be spent on. So this way we can push on our principals to make sure they're working with their budget director to get all that money allocated.
Okay, I'll do.
Okay. Okay, so you done, Gus?
I'm done.
Okay, perfect. So is there any new business?
Danielle?
Yep. Hey, Andre, how are you?
Okay, I got some new business.
All right.
I will no longer be covering District 25.
Oh, that's not good business. Why not? Okay.
Well,
But you just got here.
He did
yeah,
it.
I know. Well, the schools division is no longer just Local 372. There's other locals that we're covering, such as libraries and so on. So when that happens, there's usually a change in switching the reps around to different districts. I requested to, continue with District 25, but that's a non-argument according to my boss. So I will be moving on to District 30 and the Office of Food and Nutrition Services at Long Island City, as well as Queens Plaza North. So.
Well, it is and was and will still be, but although you won't be at our meetings, a pleasure to work with you, Andre. You really pushed our thinking and were a strong influence in considering the role of DC 37 on so many levels, between our school aides and our cafeteria workers and our parent coordinators. So I want to thank you for that. And we're hoping that you'll transition the person and make sure that we have an introduction.
Yeah. So I don't have that information just yet, but I will inform you once I get it. And I'll, at the next DLT, I'll, introduce that person.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
I'm sad, but I know we will see each other along the way.
Sure.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, anyone else? New business. Okay. So Joe, I didn't know if you wanted to speak about the planning around the town hall, and we don't,
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something. So originally, Carranza had postponed our town hall from March 3rd to March 29th. And it seems like the new chancellor was going to, join on that date, but it is Passover, and I'm getting a lot of families who are contacting me and indicating that it's not a good date and they're upset about it. So we reached out through FACE to the new chancellor's office requesting a new date, and we're waiting to hear from that. So the town hall, which was scheduled for the 29th, is not going to happen. CEC should have made that announcement, and we're waiting to hear from further notice from the new chancellor's office on that. But we will continue our town hall planning at our next meeting, which again is March 24th.
Yep. And so I do encourage you to reach out to your constituencies, especially on the parent end, because there is a way to kind of submit your questions and concerns. And the CEC has been really, strategic in making sure that the questions that they're selecting represent the needs and the questions that the District 25 community has. So I want to thank all of you guys for that. You've done a really great job with that.
And Joe, I just want to let you know, Face emailed everyone that signed up for the town hall yesterday, notifying us that
The
it's
29th is not happening, correct?
correct. I just forwarded you the email so you had it,
Great.
so we can use that language going forward. But yeah, it's public that it's not happening the 29th.
Okay, great. Thank you, Louis.
Okay, and you sent that to Carly, right? Louis?
Yes, I sent it to Carly also.
I'll
I
follow
sent it to Carly last night.
Yeah, so she
Sure.
has the, so she'll have the wording too. Okay. I'm actually trying to look up our next meeting. So our next meeting, April, does anybody have the calendar in front of them?
It's April 12th.
I think it's April 12th.
Yep, there we go. April 12th is our next meeting, 9 o'clock. Okay, and Dr. D'Antona and I will be presenting very, 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 very preliminary goals for the following year. So if there's any members on this team that would like to create your own or add an additional goal just around parent engagement, or, you know, anything for administrative, our school leaders, or anything for teachers, just kind of put that together so you can present that at the next meeting as well, what you feel may be important, you know, to be heard and be part of our DCEP for next year. Okay, so with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting. We can't do that consensus, Charlene, right?
Yeah,
So-
we can. We just say we all agree to go bye-bye. No, I'm only playing.
No,
we
I
all
want
agree.
a motion. I want a motion.
I'll make the
Go ahead and
motion.
have your motion. Go
Okay.
ahead and have your motion.
Motion.
So Joe motioned, and who seconds?
I second Brooke.
Thank you, Brooke, for seconding. Okay. Have a great the rest of your day, and I'm sure I'll see you guys each separately during the month. So have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day, all.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.